Welcome to the All for the Gators podcast.
It is the All for the Gators podcast. It's all for the number 4 Gators podcast, A4TG pod at, what is it on Twitter? Is it A4TG podcast or pod?
Come on, you got to know this stuff.
I was counting on you. I sure don't know.
It's one of them, but I'll tell you.
You know I don't.
Yeah, right. Last show, I was bragging that we hit 500 followers. I think we're up to like 630 now.
Watch out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, I still don't know if that's good, but it sounds good.
Sounds great.
I think any significant increase is always good, right?
Yeah.
We're going in the right
The
direction.
number's not getting smaller, so I'm taking that as a huge positive.
Hey, you guys feeling jolly yet?
Always.
Always.
Sid, fresh back from the Las Vegas Bowl, man. Any stories?
Oh, God.
Ugh.
I can't imagine.
Have you ever watched grass grow? Because that was about as exciting as this adventure. Oh, boy. Yeah. Vegas was a good time, but that game, shout out to Pat Page. Excellent host.
Did you win anything?
I won more than I lost, which is always a plus.
Then you won. That's good.
Hey, you know who won our most iconic Gators photo bracket challenge?
I actually do, surprisingly enough.
I do not.
It was our last guest.
Ooh.
Our last guest, Mr. Earl Everett, his iconic helmetless 07 national championship game, putting down Troy Smith, the Heisman winner photo, and won in the finals against Chris Leak. I was kind of surprised that photo of Chris Leak made it to the finals, holding up the crystal football after the 06 national championship.
That's a good one.
What do you guys think?
Yeah,
about
agreed.
that?
I was a little surprised. Actually, I was curious who was going to come out on top in the Final Four because I thought Earl Everett versus the Tebow Soak was that's a tough one in my opinion. I mean, I would have gone Everett. I would have definitely gone Everett, but that Soak one is pretty cool looking.
I'll tell you, Earl has a lot of active social media followers. I'll put it that way,
All right.
which is a good thing. So he got a lot of support in this bracket and well-deserved. I mean, that is one of the most iconic Gators. You can't argue that, right?
No, definitely not.
That's one of the iconic images of the last 20 years of college football, Gators or otherwise. Of course. That's excellent. Well deserved.
So we'll do our next bracket challenge in January after the holidays. But let's get to today's show.
All right, so who do we got today?
Today's Gator Great is one of the most prolific rushers in Florida high school history. At Fletcher High in Neptune Beach, he amassed over 7,400 rushing yards, twice topping 2,000 in a season, ending up the state's 5th all-time leading rusher in history and number 1 in the North Florida region. As a consensus high school All-American and number 1 ranked running back prospect in the nation, this guy committed to UF without even visiting another school.
Like that.
As a Gator, he would go on to explode through, over, and past defenses of the likes not seen out of a running back in the swamp since the days of Emmitt and Fred T. He was voted team captain his junior season and stamped his legacy in the orange and blue with, only the 4th best season by a running back at UF ever. Over 1,500 total yards, an SEC best over 1,200 rushing, 12 total touchdowns, also leading the SEC with over 105 yards rushing per game. First team All-SEC, All-American honorable mention, was voted MVP of the team and was awarded the prestigious Fergie Ferguson Award for outstanding leadership, character, and courage. Today, you can find him using those skills, whipping those Duval boys into beasts back at Fletcher High as head coach and through his company, Star Ready Athletes. Gator Nation, I give you quite possibly the most explosive player in UF history, and I mean like C4 explosive. Ciatrick Fason, C4, baby.
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
All right. Man, that was a long intro. That might be one of the longest ones yet.
It's an accomplished guest.
So C4, he screws a lot of these up. What did he miss? Did he miss anything in there?
He didn't miss anything.
Good.
Before we get started, Ciatrick, man, we're so honored to have you on with us. But before we get started, any big plans for the holidays coming up? What you got going on?
I'm just stay home and spend time with the wife and the kids. 2 of my 4 kids are here right now from college, and so we're just gonna spend Christmas together and try to get all the time we can before my son goes back to college on the 26th.
Okay, very nice. Same here. We're staying home low key with the family. How old are your kids?
Oh man, my oldest is 22. My second oldest is 20. He'll be 21 in April, and then 2 twins just turned 20.
Well, before we get to football, you were born in Atlanta, Georgia. Did you move to Jacksonville when you were young? Or
Well, my mom was she was staying in Jacksonville. My whole family was pretty much from Jacksonville, but she went to Atlanta to visit and ended up having me in Atlanta while she was visiting.
Oh, okay.
I was born in Greater Memorial Hospital and she moved back to Jacksonville probably like 3 or 5 weeks later or something like that. So,
Well, in Jacksonville, you could say that you destroyed high school defenses there in North Florida. You had a monster high school career. You were tagged the number one running back in the nation after graduating. And I'm sure you could have had your pick of pretty much any college, but verbally committed to UF and didn't even visit another school. First, how much of a Gators fan were you at that point? And number two, what other schools were pushing hard for you?
it's crazy. My whole life, I grew up as a Seminole.
Wow.
The crazy part, and Seminoles was the second school to offer me. They offered me going into my freshman year of high school, and before that, Clemson offered me. I had a cousin, Raheem Abdullah, played at Clemson, so they offered me going into high school too. But 2 years later, Florida State tells me they don't think I'm a running back. I look like a free safety because I played free safety against Tallahassee Leon, and Coach Sexton's son Wyatt was the quarterback. And I had some big hits, interception, but I also ran for 300 yards. And I was like, nah, I know I'm not going to Florida State play no free safety. But Coach Spurrier was actually on vacation, and he came by the school to recruit one of our offensive linemen to see if he was going to offer him or not. And while he was watching the film, he saw me, and he was like, "Hey, I don't know about this lineman, but this running back could play." And he offered me, and the next day I ended up taking we called it a field trip. I had to get a field trip for him because school was going on. And me and Coach Reynolds, my old head coach, went up to Gainesville, and right then I committed, man. I fell in love with Florida at that moment and didn't turn back ever since.
Well, as we're recording today's podcast, today is began the early signing period for college recruits. So a lot of flipping going on, of course. I'm sure some NIL deals also. I think Florida only lost, one guy flipping, and so we're building that bench strength and that roster, through the trenches now with the new coach. Did you have any recruiting stories that stick out of colleges that kind of tried to persuade you away from UF? I know we heard recently Errict Dickerson said, I think it was Texas A&M offered him a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am, anything like that, any cars?
No cars, but I had, Michigan State come down, and, they tell me, it was like, hey, you need to look at Michigan State. Coach Spurrier had just went on to the NFL, and they was like, you need to come look at Michigan State. We got a 2,000-yard rusher. TJ Duckett was coming through. Mm-hmm. He was entering the draft, and they was like, look, you could be the next TJ Duckett. Michigan State looked like paradise. I was like, all right, you can give Michigan State a try. So I fly up there, and I get to the airport, and I look outside. I'm like, man, it's snowing here. They look like paradise. I called the coach and was like, man, can y'all put me back on the plane like today and not tomorrow? I don't even want to leave the airport. And I didn't leave the airport. I flew right back to Jacksonville. So
it's too damn cold up there.
Yeah, definitely. It was crazy. It wasn't paradise, I can tell you that.
Tough to beat with the sunshine down here. So you get to campus, and you're not far from home where you were a legend. And as Bo Carroll put it when he was on the show, you're now amongst an entire roster of high school All-Americans, and no one sticks out. But it's kind of hard to imagine that you didn't stick out. Was this the case for you when you first arrived? Like, did that have any effect on your confidence or how you approach things as an underclassman?
No, not at all. I stuck out a lot. Being committed for so long and taking the trips up there. And as soon as I stepped on campus, I figured I had a target on my back, especially, with the signing class we had. I think we finished like number 22 in the nation or something like that. Coach Zook had the run as soon as he got the job, and his first day there was my first day there. I was on my visit. So, I figured I was the number one recruit in the class, number one running back in the nation. I had a target on my back. The plus side of it is I knew I wasn't going in to start. Ernest Graham was coming back for his last year, and he was up for the Heisman. So I knew I had time, and I knew I had like a year to prepare myself to get ready to actually try to be the man. And the whole time I got there, I knew I didn't want a red shirt. And I told Coach, look, I'm not red shirting. And he was like, you better figure out how to get on the field. I knew I was going to give it all my all on special teams. And, like 4 games, I ended up starting fullback, So I knew I just wanted to be a part of the team and be a part of the success early. but I knew the target I had on my back wasn't so bad because of Ernest Graham.
So speaking of Ernest Graham, and he was one of the team captains, like you said, up for the Heisman. In 2002, and Zook's first year as head coach, the Gators dropped 5 games, including the bowl game, but you don't play much behind Ernest Graham. So being such a beast in high school, did this affect you at all, just not being out on the field? I know you said you expected it, but, what's your mindset after that season, not being on the field as much as you probably wanted to?
Well, I wasn't too much baller when Ernest was there. Ernest, people don't know, that was my roommate as a freshman, and we went in a fall camp. Ernest was my roommate. They put me with a vet, and Ernest is the one that gave me the nickname C4. Like, the first day I passed, he saw me run. He was like, man, you explosive, man. For a young back, we're going to start calling you C4 and match your name and match your jersey number. So I was like, I appreciate it. And I think my frustration came more when Ernest left. I felt like I could run the ball, and I wasn't given my fair shake of playing the beginning of my sophomore year. And I got frustrated and wanted to leave. And Coach Zook told me I wasn't going nowhere. I had to beat him up in the locker room if I wanted to transfer. And he was like, "Man, just stick it out." And it paid off. Like, it definitely paid off. And that's when I learned life lessons. Patience is key. And just be ready for your opportunity when it shows up. So, my freshman year, I wasn't too much worried about playing. I enjoyed special teams. Like, special teams was my thing. And if you watch from the day I ran out the tunnel, I always run to the other side, jump in the stands, pump up the crowd on special teams. That was my thing, and I endured it. So, I wasn't frustrated with Ernest Graham. That was more my sophomore year, but like I said, patience is key, and it paid off.
What would you say was the most valuable thing you learned kind of being behind Ernest Graham that first year?
I learned how to take care of my body, pay attention, because everything EG did, I paid attention to it. I see how he got out to the field early, see how he warmed up before practice. I saw after practice, after the games, he hit the cold tub. I saw how he was always prepared in the meeting room. And, those things was the most the most gratifying to me. Like, I learned a lot from him. He wasn't too much of a clubber. Like, he'll go out with the boys, but EG was gone at a certain time. And, it was like he had a goal, and he achieved it, got to the NFL. And once he got there, and I was like, man, EG, hey, he wrote the blueprint for us, and definitely for me. Like, just follow what he did, and it's gonna pay off. And that's why I say, man, EG taught me how to be even though he was in college, you say he taught me how to be a pro.
It's a good guy to learn from.
So let's talk about that 2003, your junior year. You mentioned you were a little frustrated with the playing time because you really become part of a 3-headed monster back there in the backfield in the swamp with Rand Carthon and Deshaun Wynn, all rushing for over 500 yards each. Although you did have the highest yards per carry with 6.9, I'll point out. So you had mentioned earlier that you had thought about leaving. So if there was a transfer portal around then, do you think, after splitting time 3 ways, that you would have jumped in that transfer portal?
No. it was hard. I was a Gator. Like, once I became a Gator, and the day I committed, I knew I was a Gator. Even when I went up to Zook often, was like, I'm a transfer. And he was like, where you going to transfer to? And I was like, man, I'm going to go to Georgia Tech. Man, yeah, right. I'm going to leave the swamp to go to Georgia Tech. Like, but I, just young and frustrated and just saying stuff. But in my heart, I never wanted to leave. Like, man, if the portal was around now, I'm like, man, I think other guys probably would have left that I was competing with or playing with, but it was never in my real thought process to leave, man. Ain't nothing like running out that tunnel. So
we're glad you stayed too. So you mentioned Graham gave you the nickname C4 early on, but that year you really earned the nickname C4, having a ton of explosive, pun intended plays. You had the 75-yarder against Arkansas, 4 runs and catches that were over 20 yards against South Carolina, where you single-handedly, dropped 190 total yards on those guys. So did you find pride in yourself in those type of plays? And were you running over to Zook and working him for more playing time at that point?
Oh well, definitely. I don't know if y'all. My sophomore year, I put something out there in one of the magazines in the newspaper, and they was talking about Cedric Cobbs, and he was at Arkansas, and I say, man, if I was Cedric Cobbs, man, I have 1,300 yards, much as he get the ball. I was like, cause I'm a running back, and I know I'm gonna break one, and I used to always say, give me the ball 10 times, I'm gonna get 100 yards, cause I know I'm gonna break one. And that's how much confidence I had in myself because, I think 10 carries is it's kind of hard not to break one, especially having an SEC line at the University of Florida. So I always was confident, and I always knew I was a big play guy. In high school, that was my thing. People thought I was a bruiser because I was a big high school back. But if you ever watch me play in high school, I was always a big play guy. I try to score fast. I don't like to be on the field that long.
One thing that we ask a lot of guys, kind of when you realized you were the man, like when did you realize kind of you were as explosive as you were and you were kind of dominating? Was it in high school? Was it before high school?
I figured it out when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
Like dead serious. Nobody, my first year of football, my coach, who I called my uncle, my Part 1 coach, Coach Robbie Smith, he put me on the O-line the first 7 games of the season. And I used to stay night at his house and say, Coach, man, why you always put me on the O-line? I'm a running back. He was like, nah, you too young right now. I was 7 years old. The first time I got the ball was the last game of the year, and the first time I got it, I broke on an 80-yard and scored a touchdown. And then the next year, we went undefeated. The next year after that, went undefeated. And it was like, Coach, can't nobody stop me. So I realized that I was good. And then I got to middle school, and if anybody tell you around here in Jacksonville about our middle school football, we just used to play 5 games. I rushed for 1,300 yards and 23 touchdowns in 5 games.
Oh my God.
As an 8th grader, and that's when all the high school coaches started getting on me, and I was dunking in the 7th grade and stuff like that. And I realized I'm good at this, and I could go a long way. And my whole thought process of growing up was that I was going to play pro ball. And like when I was 9 years old and so on, I knew I was God blessed me with a lot of ability.
Let me go back to your statement about when you put out a quote into one of the magazines about the Arkansas running back. How did Zook respond to that article?
He told me he was going to ban me from the media. he said he was going to ban me from the media, but when he started saying it, he was like, man, you're a dog. Like, if I had 105 guys like you with your confidence, we would be all right. And so he embraced it because I didn't just talk about it. I went out there and performed. And I tell people all the time, even my own players, I let them read some of my own articles and some of my quotes. And they were like, Coach, you was confidence. I was like, yeah. I put the pressure on myself. I didn't want to let myself down, and that's who I competed with was myself. So, Coach Zook definitely was okay with it as long as I perform, and even my confidence, it rubbed off on Channing Crowder. He reached out to me about a couple months ago and told me my confidence helped him gain confidence, and that was big coming from Channing.
Well, your confidence clearly took you far. You become voted the team captain for 2004. What did that feel like?
Oh, it felt good. Out of all the honors that I got, that's probably the biggest one. Because most confident people call cocky, but I wasn't cocky. I was just confident in myself. But anybody would tell you, I always like to make people laugh. I play around with the big guys. I joke with everybody. I was probably the most likable person in the locker room, to be honest. And, that go a long way. Like if you can be the most likable and you showing up on game day, your teammates, your coaches, man, they feed off that and they fall in love with you. And my teammates fell in love with me. And to this day, I got a brotherhood with all my teammates and even the younger guys that came after me when I was gone, like Ahmad Black and Reggie Nelson. Those guys, man, if you saw me around those guys right now, you would think I played with those guys. But that was just I'm just that person to try to get along with everybody and being named the team captain just showed how much love I had for everybody and what the teammates had for me and the coaches.
The impact that you say you had on Channing Crowder, and then we had Earl Everett on last week, and he spoke about the impact Channing Crowder had on him, and of course the impact Earl had on other players. Do you feel that in part you had a part of the national championship in 06 because of the way, you know, the players were impacted going back to you, looking back?
I think so. That signing class we had was amazing. And I was that person, that confidence, and used to try to tell the people, walk like you got it. We're University of Florida, we're supposed to always win. And even though we went through our bumps when I was there, I think my confidence rubbed off, even Channing confidence rubbed off on the players behind us. Like, you know what, man, hey, they carry themselves a certain type of way. They reach their ultimate goal, which was the NFL, and we need to do the same. It's a way you could do it. And one of the prime examples, man, I tell you, Andre Caldwell. Oh my God, man, that kid. I could say as soon as he walked in the building, him and D Webb, as soon as they walked in the building, they had that same confidence. Like every time I catch it, I'm gonna score. Ain't nobody gonna throw the ball on me. I'm gonna pick it, and that was their confidence. And we rubbed off on a lot of players, and it paid off. And like you say, Earl Everett was Channing rubbed off on Earl, and man, I love Earl, man. Earl shows love. He come to my camps anytime I have a camp and invite him. And those guys, we just sit around, tell stories, and they always say, see, you was the most confident. Dallas Baker called me a couple of weeks ago and talking about it. And those all guys that played on the national championship team. So when those guys call me, Brian Crum and Reggie Lewis, when those guys reach out to me and tell me stories about myself and how I made them feel about themselves, that go a long way.
Did you make them give you a ring?
Nah, I'm all good.
You should have.
So let's go back to that offseason between 03 and 04. What is that like for you? Are you training at that point with a big chip on your shoulder because you feel like you deserve to be the feature back and you want to be the feature back that next year?
Most definitely. And I had them two kids in high school, so they was my motivation as well. But I thought I was gonna be the starter. As soon as Rand left, I said, okay, it's my turn. But right before spring, they told me I was going in as the number 2 guy, and I was like, okay. All love for Deshaun Wynn, and me and him are good friends, and I was like, man, the number 2 guy after what I did. And I was like, you know what? I guess it's going to be a 2-headed monster, but I ain't going to complain. I just went out there and did my job. And we had that spring game going into our junior year. And I had a great spring game. And after that game, Coach Zook put me against the so-called starters. And I was with the backups. And I rushed for over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in the spring game. And in the locker room, he was like, hey, man, forget what I said about the number 2 back. You're going into the summer as the number 1. And once he told me that, it was like no looking back. I was like, I got a goal. And I went up top to the film guys and say, I need Fred Taylor film, Emmitt Smith film, Errict film. And they looked at me. I said, I need it. They said, for what? I said, because I'm going to be your next 1,000-yard back. I think they thought I was crazy, but I meant what I said. And hey, I watched them videos every day. It was the same video. I watched it every day until the season started. And then when the season started, the first game of the season, I was like, okay, I'm going to be all right. And, so, yeah, I went in that offseason, man, when Coach Zook used to say break, 4th of July, everybody go home. I was still at the school. As long as the facility was open, I was there training. So, man, it was definitely different, but I felt like I had to carry the team because we were so young.
Yeah, you weren't giving up that one spot. I can guarantee
it. That's right. And let's talk about 2004 then, your opportunity. You blow the roof off expectations there, over 1,500 total yards, 1,200 on the ground, 12 total touchdowns. You led the SEC in yards per game with over 105. How did it feel to finally get that opportunity and to not only lead the Gators as team captain, but to fulfill what so many were waiting to see from you?
It felt good. Because like I said, I put that out there in the paper that if I got the ball 10 or more times, I was gonna get over 100 yards, and they was giving me the ball more than 10 times a game, and I was doing everything that I said, and it felt good because some people was like, man, this guy was number one running back in the nation. We ready to see it, and most times people thought it was. We don't know if he good enough. It wasn't that. It was just that we had a crowded backfield, and I was just needed to be patient and wait for my opportunity. But when it presented itself, I knew it was go time, and I couldn't look back because I never wanted to be that person to be talked about and be like, man, that boy was a terror. He was good high school, but he was terrible in college, and that was always my thing. So every day, every time I walked on the practice field, every time I walked on the game field, it was that, I got to be the best version of me that everybody loved to see. And that's what it was about, just making the fans and my family and friends proud.
Now, total yards are pretty, but I've always felt like a true measure of a great running back is purely yards per carry. And that season, 2004, you averaged 5.7 yards a carry. That's third best ever by a UF running back, only behind Fred T and Emmitt, the two guys you studied tape of, had better ones. That's pretty damn good. Looking back, what's it feel like to be mentioned amongst those Gator greats like that?
Man, it's amazing. Is Fred T. When I was a freshman in high school, he was a rookie in the NFL, and people used to call me Baby Fred. And growing up watching Emmitt and Barry Sanders go at it, just knowing he's one of the great running backs, and following even Errict,
Oh, yeah.
our all-time leading rusher, and seeing how hard Errict ran, and I looked up to all those guys. So when people mention Gator running backs and they hear my name, it's definitely a blessing, because those are all guys that I looked up to and tried to take a little bit from each of their styles. And even when we see each other now, I might see Errict every blue moon, but I see Fred T a lot and Emmitt every blue moon. But man, it's like a brotherhood, and they treat me like the little brother that made them proud. And it's always an honor coming from those guys.
Just a quick one here. What do you think about the Gator running backs they got now?
Whew. ETN is a problem. I said back when I went to the coach's clinic that Montrell Johnson was going to be a problem. I love the running back room right now. And I seen that they was talking about we might get the kid from North Carolina A&T out the portal. And I was like, why? Like, I want the ball in ETN and Johnson hand,
Yes,
much as we could get it in their hands. I think those are two guys that can easily rush for 1,000 yards apiece at the same time. And I think both of those guys are gonna follow the line with the Gator running backs getting drafted. I'm in love with that room right now, and I even like Trayon Webb coming from Jacksonville. Young kid I talk to a lot, and I think he's going to do a great job. And what we've been doing with the running back room lately has been really dang good. And I'm definitely looking forward to having – I think Etienne only got 2 more years with us. Johnson might have 1 more, but I'm looking forward to seeing those guys, carry the load. I think we can lean on that run and not that pass so much. We're going to be all right.
a lot of promise there.
Let me ask you a question about recruits real quick, because you mentioned earlier how when you went to UF and you got on campus, you fell in love and you were a Gator at that point, right? And you were dedicated to being a Gator and staying a Gator through, time sharing and what you had to deal with as an underclassman before you broke through. Do you feel recruits these days have that kind of dedication to schools? I mean, with the transfer portal and NIL deals, how do you feel about the situation that it's putting recruits in these days? And do you feel that these kids have the same, have it in their heart like you did?
Nah, for the most part, I don't think so at all. I think certain kids, you have your few that grew up liking a certain school and going to that school and never leaving no matter what the situation is. But for the most part, the NILs and the kids being patient and waiting for an opportunity, it's no longer there. Now them kids jumping at the money and or even if they get the money and then they sit a year, like kids red shirt and get upset. Like the red shirt is helping you. Like you're not wasting a year. You're getting bigger, stronger, faster. It's not hurting you, but they get so a lot of kids get the wrong advice, and I think it's a lot to do with social media as well. Kids love that social media attention, and back when we was playing, you got a little attention, but we didn't. We just wanted our goal was to go be at the best school, the school that we fell in love with, and try to get to the next level. Now these kids, they don't even care about going to the pros after college. They're like, shoot, give me $100,000 right now, and I think that's gonna last forever, but it's not. And they don't know you still got to perform to get that NIL money. So I think it's definitely changed the landscape. I tell kids all the time, they was like, Coach, if you was in high school, going to college, you probably chased the money too. I say, first of all, I had the best nickname in all the sports. I probably would have just got money just for that. But I would have never, ever thought about not going to University of Florida to chase a dollar. Like, I don't want to play at Miami. Like, they can't even sell out their stadium, just to be honest. I don't want to be there. I'm not going to Kentucky because they offer me the most money. I'm going to Florida because I want to be in that atmosphere. And I always tell people, when you go to Florida, and no matter when sports end for you, Gators take care of Gators. So I always would have went to Florida. So, but the NIL definitely changed the landscape of sports and the loyalty these athletes have towards a university.
I could only imagine some of the ads they could have come up with for you doing some explosive things with that C4. You missed some good opportunities there. But you mentioned Miami, and thank God you did not go there. But they did beat you guys in that bowl game, and then after the accolades pile up. You already mentioned how proud you were to be a team captain, but now you got All SEC, All American honorable mention, Team MVP, the Fergie Ferguson Award. Which of these stand out? And do you have like anything prominently displayed in your home to show off, or if that stands out more than the others for you?
I got all my awards kind of like put away. The one I do have though, I got my Ferguson Award out, and my Hall of Fame bus is out. That's definitely big. I always say, I wanted to be in the Hall of Fame or something. And, just being honored to go in the Florida Georgia Hall of Fame last year was huge. A lot of people playing the Georgia Florida game, and it's big here. And being able to perform in front of my home fans and then turn around to get put in the Georgia Florida Hall of Fame, that meant a lot to me. That means I showed up when I needed to, and I put on a show for my fans. That having that award made me feel like I didn't disappoint at all.
Oh, you definitely didn't disappoint.
Yeah, we've had several guys on our show that have played in that Florida Georgia and got into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations on that. That's your pride is the same pride we heard from the other guys. That's really a big deal. That's something that, at least for me personally, doing this show, I've kind of learned how important that really is to a lot of guys. So again, congrats on that one.
Thank you.
Did you tear up? Did you cry?
Oh, you're gonna talk about crying again?
Yep. Yeah,
I ain't crying.
Because Ben Troop said that Jeff Chandler went up there and he started to cry. That made Ben Troop start to cry a little. So just had to find out. Sorry, Andy.
So I do want to talk a little bit about Coach Zook. We've had some guys on the show that talked to us about him, and they got really close with him. Ben Troop, Earl Everett, to name a couple. Did you have that same relationship with Coach Zook? And kind of a follow-up to that, did he or any other UF coaches kind of have any big impacts on your life?
Oh, most definitely. Coach Zook mean a lot to me. I talk to him to this day. I talk to him, Coach Fedora, Coach Loxley, and Coach Dish. But Coach Zook definitely meant a lot. Like I told you, man, Coach Zook taught me how to fight through adversity. Taught me how to be patient in life, no matter what it is, sports, your marriage, with your kids, at work. He taught me patience, and it went a long way. Just from everything I went through, man. Coach Zook is like definitely a blessing to my life, and definitely Coach Fedora. And the second biggest person got to be Coach Locks, man. Coach Locks told me how to fight, never give up for anything. Love Coach Locks. I talk to him every now and then. I reach out to him. He invites me up to Maryland, to come to spring or to stay up there and chill with him for a while. And Coach Locks is like a big brother or a stepdad to me, man. He makes sure I'm doing right. He reaches out to this day to ask me, is everything okay? I do the same, especially with him losing a son. But, man, Coach Locks and Coach Zook and Coach Fedora was huge blessings. And Coach Zook was just his last recruiting trip that he took for the University of Maryland. He stopped by the school. And we got to chop it up a lot, but I love reaching out to those guys, and I think they're a part of the help me become the man I am today, far as husband and father and coach.
That brings up a question, and there have been a lot of players that we've had on talk about Coach Zook, like Andy said. So I gotta take a sidebar here. I want to ask, as fans, I gotta ask Andy and Sid real quick.
Yeah.
Our perception of Coach Zook as a fan, we didn't really see behind the curtains like the stories we're hearing. So it's pretty amazing to me, and it's pretty cool to hear these stories. But what are you guys thinking about these stories that we're hearing, about these players being so close to Coach Zook compared to what the idea of Coach Zook we had in our head, probably based upon media, right? FireRonZook.com, and he was sort of there in the lull between the 90s championships and then, the 06 and 08's success.
He definitely placed the blueprint, though, for that first championship that Urban won.
Sure.
I mean, those were all his players, and they all flourished. I mean, Urban definitely deserves credit for putting it all together, but those were Zook's players. And even at the time, I think he did get the credit for that. It's just, unfortunately, though, while he was on the sidelines, we didn't have the results that you would have liked for the talent he was bringing in. But he always seemed like a good guy. He never brought us shame. I mean, I don't think it should be looked at as like a dark days of Florida history by any stretch, but it is tough when you're between two other championship coaches. But I think the further removed we get from it, though, probably the better he looks, because we see how some of the coaches have struggled after Urban. The other coaches who haven't won championships, I'd say Zook held up pretty well compared to a lot of those.
Yeah, I'm actually not all that surprised to hear that he was so close with the players. I mean, what I used to love about him was when he'd get in the middle of the players before the game, and he'd be going nuts and bouncing around with the guys, and you could tell he cared, and he was wanted to be part of that. And to me, I just think that it kind of hit on the nail on the head. He doesn't get kind of the praise and get a little bit of a bad rap being in between, some of those championship teams. But to me, he always seemed like he genuinely cared about the guys and was a good mentor for them.
All right. So you decide to forego your senior season and enter the NFL draft in 2005. Now, we're talking about the team's success. Did that play into your decision to come out early and go to the NFL? I mean, do you think if you were closer to winning a championship, it might have tempted you to come back for that senior year?
No, I didn't. I had mixed feelings about it. I actually wanted to go just because I needed to support my two kids, but then I didn't want to leave my brothers behind because I knew we had something brewing that was going to be special. But when I met with Urban Meyer, like the second day he got hired, and he called me up to the stadium at like 12 o'clock at night. So I go up midnight to the stadium, and he tells me I'm the top player that he's recruiting. He was like, I need you to come back. And I was like, okay, I get it. And we talked. I probably was there 45 minutes, and I was like, Coach, I got a question to ask because I seen your offense. And I said, I just led the SEC in rushing. I almost had close to 1,300 yards, led them in touchdowns. And, will I do the same thing next year in your offense? And he was like, nah. So I was like, how many yards you think I'm going to get? He was like, between 600 and 800. I like to run a lot of jet sweeps with my receiver. I was like, well, coach, I appreciate it, but I ain't coming back. That 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 night I end up calling Speeds. I ended up calling Speeds and was like, hey, you can write me up something and let everybody know I'm declaring for the draft.
No.
And it was actually before the bowl game that I declared, but it was right after that talk me and him had. So that kind of lured me to push because, I was like, hey, my stock is up there right now.
Sure.
But I think sometimes I look back and say, man, if I'd have came out there next year, I probably would have been top 15 because Joseph Adai was first round, and I was so. Yeah. But I don't regret my decision. I'm happy for it. I'm happy about it. But that was one of the things that had me in there early was he didn't care too much to run that running back. So
at least he was honest with you.
Yeah, exactly.
What were you doing at midnight when he called you up?
I was watching the kids.
All right. So in 2005 NFL draft, the Vikings take you in round 4. Your rookie year in Minnesota, you're with Dante Culpepper. They got Brad Johnson, two Florida guys there. Randy Moss is there. I believe Travis Taylor is there, right? Also a Gator?
TT was there. Yep.
Yeah, and even though you're behind Mewelde Moore on the depth chart, you do score 4 touchdowns. Were they using you sort of as a goal line back at that point, your rookie year?
Yeah, when I went in, when they first drafted me, I was like, why did Minnesota draft me? They don't need no running back. They had Michael Bennett, who was just in the Pro Bowl, Ontario Smith, Mo Williams, Mewelde Moore. I was like, what they draft me for? But I went in and just performed. I did good, and a lot of people was actually fighting for me to be in a rotation, but I was young, and Coach Tice, man, I love Coach Tice. He was honest. He was like, you're a young back. Some of these vets playing for contracts. So, but how you feel about being a short yards goal line back? I was like, come on, coach. I do it. I let them do all the work and go score go score the touchdowns. So I appreciated it. And, I loved it, man. I love playing for Coach Tice. We just had a coaching change that next year, and a lot of stuff changed. Coach George just wanted to bring in his own guys, so he didn't give my draft class too much of a fair shot. We had a lot of players in our draft class, and in 3 years we was all out of there.
Well, as a Packer fan, I hated seeing you get drafted by the Vikings, so just throw that in there.
I actually scored on the Packers on Monday Night Football too.
All right.
That must have stung Andy.
We won too, 14-10.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Was it in Lambeau or was it in Minnesota?
It was in Lambeau. It was Devontae Evers was a rookie DB. He picked Brett Favre off for a diving pick 6, and then I scored, and that won the game.
All right.
Nice. Did you do a Lambeau leap to rub it in Andy's face?
Nah, I wasn't jumping in them fans.
All right. After that 2005 rookie season, you play one more year for the Vikings, and then you have a short stints with the Jags and CFL's Edmonton Eskimos. And honestly, I've been wondering this for a long time because, I was a big fan and still am of what you accomplished at UF, and so is Andy and Sid. Why do you feel your skills didn't translate to the pros?
I think if I would have had, be honest, I think if I would have had Mike Tice for longer than a year, I'd have got more of an opportunity because he actually fell in love with me. And then, like I told you, my second year, even when we had Mewelde Moore, Mike Bennett left, Mo Williams, Coach Childress brought in Chester Taylor to be our starting back, and then he brought in Artus Penner. So it wasn't really a chance given. And if you see, the only game that I really played under him was versus Chicago, the year that they made the Super Bowl. I had a great game. Like all the running backs got hurt, and I was the only one standing. And had a great game, but right after that week, I'm right back to just special teams. And then going into my third year, actually Seattle tried to trade for me, and they told my agent no that I was a part of the plans, and they released me. And the waiver wire went through, and I thought I was released, and they released me after everybody was on the waiver wire. And I went through a depression stage and did the Jaguar thing that following off season, went to Canada, and Canada was kind of different. I'll say it was easy in a way, and I was like, this don't even seem like football. And the following year, I got some phone calls to try out, and I did try out for the Buffalo Bills, and I actually went up there for 3 days, and they was gonna sign me, and I was like, you know what, man, after going through that depression stage, I was like, it's no longer. I don't want to go through this phase no more. I want to just start giving back to kids, and that's what pretty much got my life going in a different direction. But I think if Coach Tice stays, it goes better, and if I don't go through that depression stage, I think I would have played at least 8 years in the league.
How was your time in Jacksonville with Freddie?
Oh man, I was with Freddie. I was only there for a week, but it was one of
Oh,
the
okay.
it was one of the great moments. Like Freddie thought I was making a team. Like that week I was there, I had a great week. Like everybody tell you, I had a phenomenal week, and I was like, man, Freddie. And then they called me, and Freddie was like, I know they ain't cutting you. I was like, yeah, but Coach Del Rio, man, I love Del Rio. He was honest. I don't know if you remember, they had Chauncey Washington. And the last for them keeping the back came down to me or Chauncey Washington. And Del Rio was like, man, you did your thing, but Chauncey is a USC guy. And if I cut Chauncey, I can never show my face back to USC. And I at this time, I know how it works in the pros. So I'm like, I get it, coach. So, but just being around Freddie for a week, and I was around Mike Peterson, man. Them guys, man, I love Mike Peterson made somebody move their locker and put my locker next to his. So I loved it for that week, man, and got to see Freddie was it was right the year before he went to play for New England, and he'll go out every day and run, and I see Freddie run a 40, and I'm like, damn, he in his late 30s, and this joker's moving, man. Like, so I'm like, man, this joker's a beast. So, man, I definitely I was excited. Like, even when they cut me, I wasn't even mad. I was like, man, I got to be with Freddie and Mike Pete. So, man, it was a moment. I tell people, hey, I played with Fred Taylor.
It's a great experience.
Is this Freddie T's year for the Hall of Fame, you think?
He's due.
It should be.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
man, that's one of if you listen to a lot of people and a lot of running backs that played in the pros, especially the older guys like the Jim Browns and the Dickersons, Tony Dorsett, they tell you Fred T's one of the most talented backs that ever played in the National Football League. So
sure.
I don't see how Freddie not get in. Like, that dude is like phenomenal, like for real, as a person and a player.
His cumulative stats are going to hold up even better as there's so few running backs playing as long as he was. He was so durable. So I mean, he's got to get in there. It's long overdue.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're all on the Fred Taylor Hall of Fame bandwagon. That's for sure. We're pushing.
Yes.
So you talked about giving back to the kids, and today you're involved in teaching kids the game. As John mentioned in the intro, you're head coach of your alma mater, Fletcher High, and with StarReadyAthletes.com. Are there any coaching techniques that you use from coaches you've had, from whether it's high school or UF or even in the pros?
I use a lot of Zook. I try to be that player's coach, and then my fiery side comes from Coach Loxley. Like, Coach Lox was fiery. You score a touchdown, he gonna chest bump you. If you play like trash, he gonna tell you like it is. But at the same time, you got Zook gonna love on you. You're gonna yell at you and love on you because he wants you to succeed. And that's how I do it, man. I just and even though I didn't play under Coach Spurrier, but when he recruited me, I got to be around him a lot. Man, I use a lot of Coach Spurrier. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I tell people all the time, like, hey, that we get up 40, they be like, hey, you in, back up. Coach Spurrier say they practice just like we do. They gotta stop us. Like, I write a letter to the state tomorrow and apologize, but they gotta stop us. So, I take from those guys and just implementing in my own stuff, because I think though all three of those guys were very successful people, especially Coach Spurrier and Coach Zook, being a lot of places, and Coach Locks, it's his time now. So I try to implement what those guys instilled into me.
All right, Ciatrick, we're going to end with this, okay? In honor of Christmas, we're turning you into Santa Fason, okay? You're going to be directing your elves to build the ultimate dog at running back for UF. So you got to take 10 characteristics from Gator backs, past or present. I'm going to give you the characteristic. You got to tell me what Gator former running back or current running back you're going to take that characteristic from and build the ultimate dog at running back for UF. Are you ready?
Ready?
All right. First one is speed. Whose speed are you taking?
Shoot, give me Dimps.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah, you can't beat that,
Good
right?
choice.
All right, we're gonna go with strength, like stamina strength.
Whew. Give me Emmitt.
Agility.
Freddie T.
All right, I like this running back.
Yeah.
Number 4, power.
Errict.
All right, hands.
Whew. Let me get. I'm taking ETN. We split them out. I like ETN.
Yeah. Get on the ball.
Right.
Yes.
Nice. I like it.
Intelligence.
Whew. Intelligence. I take Pierce.
And feel free to include yourself in any of these, by the
Damian
way.
Pierce.
Yeah, I like Pearson. I like the kid. Yeah.
The 7th characteristic is heart.
Heart. That's me.
Yeah, it is.
All right. The 8th characteristic is instinct.
Rainy.
Oh, that was our first guest ever.
Yeah, friend
Nice.
of the show.
Yeah, nice.
Good deal. Dedication.
I'm going Terry Jackson.
Terry Jackson.
Nice.
All right.
Good call.
And how about this last one? Clutch ability. Who would you want in the clutch
In the clutch,
the most?
I'm going back Fred T.
Fred T again. Good pick. All right. So we got, just to recap, we got speed, Jeff Demps. We got strength, Emmitt. Agility, Fred T. Power, Errict Rhett. Hands, Etienne. Intelligence, Pierce. Heart, Mr. C4, Ciatrick Fason. Instinct, Chris Rainey. Dedication, Terry Jackson. And clutch ability, Mr. hopefully soon-to-be Hall of Famer, Fred T.
It's a pretty good back.
Yeah. Ciatrick, man, it's been an honor to have you on with us. I know we've had some issues trying to get you on. I'm so glad we finally were able to get you on and talk to you and just hear some of your stories. And, you know, we're all big fans watching you just dominate the swamp like, few backs have been able to do before and after you. So thank you for joining our show. You're on all social media. If you want to check out what's going on with Ciatrick Fason, you can go check out starreadyathletes.com. What's that about?
I actually got a Youth Athletic Association that I started back in 2011, but I let one of my cousins run that now. But I do Star Ready Athletes a lot. I train kids around the city, and I try to help kids, get into college, no matter if it's athletically or academically, and try to push them, to succeed in life. If it's athletes, if it's athletics, I want to help you get into college and try to get your balance down low as possible. And if it's academics, man, I just want to put you in a situation to help a kid succeed. So, it's a lot to do with just pretty much helping kids and, I do shoe drives, backpack drives, and we get back to the homeless every Christmas. So it's all about helping people.
That's awesome. And if there's anything we could ever do for you, you let us know. Okay? I appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all.
All right. I hope you enjoyed being on the show. We got one last question. Do you any desire to coach at UF or in college or the pros, or are you happy and content, being head coach at your alma mater?
I done been offered probably 10 college coaching jobs in the last 4 years because I do a good job on having an eye for talent around the city and stuff and helping college coaches. And I tell them all no. I don't live that life doing football 24/7. I don't want to do that no more.
All right, good deal. You've been more than gracious with your time. Thank you so much once again, Ciatrick. It's been a pleasure and an honor from all of us.
Yeah, thank you. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, all right, man. Another show in the books. Mr. Ciatrick Fason's C4.
Yeah, that was some good stuff.
Oh, somebody got a fantasy football update. How'd you do?
Pro Bowl snubs. Uh-oh.
All right, so we end the show with our takeaways, but we have a new name for it. We're going to do Gator Bites.
Ooh, I like that.
What's your Gator Bite from today? I'll go first in case you guys didn't remember we do this.
I got mine.
Oh, I'm ready. But go right ahead.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, my Gator bite is going to be Ciatrick Fason influenced Channing Crowder that influenced Earl Everett. So it sort of was like a trickle down effect that could have really laid the foundation of confidence and swagger for the team that ended up winning the national championship.
I like how you just totally Kevin Bacon gamed our Gator lineage there. That was pretty cool.
All right. So Andy said he had one. What's yours? What's your Gator bite today?
Mine's easy. One of C4's 4 touchdowns was against the Packers in Lambeau. I hate these guys getting drafted by the Vikings, and he was another one. But, of course, he had to have one of his touchdowns against my Packers, but I'll take it. It was C4.
Nice. Good choice.
Very nice. Sid?
You alluded to this earlier, but I'm actually really impressed by how meaningful this Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame is to all of these Gator greats, because we listed all those accolades, all the awards he won, and when I asked what was the most special memory to you, and he's like, my Hall of Fame trophy, the Georgia-Florida game, and we heard, like you alluded to it with Jeff Chandler crying and Ben Troop talking about it. I mean, this is what matters most to these guys. These guys have gone to the NFL. They're all pros. Some champions there, and this is like what's most precious to them. That really is special. I really wasn't that aware of that significance in any way before our show. So,
well, you got to think
that's very cool.
It makes them immortal, right? I mean, all these championship rings they have wherever in safety deposit boxes or on a shelf, and other awards they have, but being inducted into a Hall of Fame makes you immortal. So they're probably
true.
Proud of that fact.
He's not in the Florida Hall of Fame, right?
It's the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame that he
right.
No, but he's not in the Gators, right?
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Not yet.
Another one of our guests that we got to push.
Wah. Way to bring the show down, Andy.
All right, well,
another guy we got to push for, man. Why isn't he in?
That's right. Let me tell you. After the conversation we had about Jeff Chandler, all-time leading scorer, not being in the UF Athletics Hall of Fame, I did research, and there's actually a committee that's put together that votes, and I applied to be on the committee.
Okay.
I have not heard back. So
I'm excited.
That's no surprise.
Well, if they reach out to me for a reference, I'll give him a good one.
Excellent.
Okay.
Legendary Florida elections. No hanging chads on this or any of that stuff. Going back old school.
Oh, man.
All right, gentlemen. Well, this is our last show before the holidays. So happy holidays to both of you. And if I don't speak to you, happy New Year. We do have several more Gator greats lined up. I'm not sure when the interviews will fall, but I'll let you know.
Great.
And we'll keep it going. Our Twitter is A4TG Podcast. We're all for the Gators on Instagram. And that's all for the Gators with number 4, and also on Facebook. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are on YouTube. So if you're not podcast savvy and you're not sure how to look up an Apple Podcast or Google or Audible or Spotify or any kind of podcast, all you got to do is surf on over. Do they still call it surfing the internet, or am I just throwing it back to 98?
I think you're stuck in 98, but that's okay.
Old school serves you well.
Go to YouTube, put in All for the Gators, number 4 podcast, and all our shows will be up there for your listening pleasure.
I was curious if you were going to remember we were on YouTube.
Yeah.
know?
I thought about it at the last second. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. But I am going to, besides the full shows, I am going to produce some shorts that'll be clips where we do, like, we'll have this Santa Fason bit.
Okay.
We'll have the holiday potluck bit. We'll have Mount Rushmore. So people who not necessarily want to listen to the whole show,
maybe they'll catch 5 minutes and check out another one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They'll hear some of these bits, and maybe it'll interest them to go ahead and check us out in our full shows. So
sounds good. I like it.
That's it. I'm done. Good night, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right, gentlemen.
Mic drop.
Always a pleasure. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators, guys. Happy holidays, and we will talk again next week.